Now, the modern gap theorists hold that there was a need for a recreation due to a worldwide cataclysmic and complete wrathful judgment of God coming as a result of the rebellion of Satan after Genesis 1:1 and before Genesis 1:2. Now, many of these men are well-meaning Bible believers who are simply mistaken. The theory is that Satan came to earth, developed cities, and that these cities and all that were in them were destroyed by pre-Adamic flood, which they call the first flood. Does the biblical evidence point to a 6-day creation or a recreation after an undetermined amount of time? I think you know my answer to this, but let's continue. First of all, the very grammar of Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 points to it being a complete sentence. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. God didn't care too much for run-on sentences. All right, back then there was no grammar, so we didn't have any problems. We're looking in a translation from the Hebrew. Now I believe that if Jesus came and wrote us an essay, that it would be completely 100% grammatically correct. But there was no reason for it to be back then, especially when you're looking at the difference between Hebrew and 1611 English, which was, by the way, if anybody ever says it's Old English, it's not. It's early modern English, at any rate. So the early modern English allowed for this. So I'm just kind of joking and messing around a little bit, but the very serious fact is that this is the very grammar of this indicates one long sentence, and that's what it does. We have the earth created empty and dark at the moment of its creation. This is a problem as light had not yet been created. Let's also look at some straightforward statements of truth. I'm going to repeat Exodus 20 verse 11 again. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is. 6 days obviously refers to the creation week. All that in them is, as the old saying goes, says what it means and means what it says. There was no ruin because that would have contradicted this verse. If there was a ruin that was between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, that would be very contradictory. Oh, well, God had to recreate it because of the ruin. How is that possible? Because all that in them is here. Everything is here. All that in them is all-encompassing of every single thing in creation. The antecedent to all that in them is heaven and earth. The gap theorists postulate that the pre-Adamic judgment took place on this earth in this universe. But it was only 6 days that God made the heaven and the earth. And if this supposed rebellion of Satan and all his cities and this supposed judgment took place between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, what does that have to do with the heaven? It's the heaven and the earth, right? What does that have to do with the heaven? And I'm assuming, by not really assuming, but concluding that he's referring to the third heaven, the throne room of God. So if we're looking at the heaven and the earth, how in the world could a pre-Adamic rebellion cause anything that would have to cause heaven to be recreated? At any rate, how long did the Lord take to make the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is? 6 days. 6 days to make all, and all means everything. What is it in the Hebrew? Everything. More evidence in Genesis 1, verse 31. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. The 6th day, the final day of creation. Creation complete. Everything was good. Heaven and earth, all that was in them. Everything God had made, he called good. Everything, by the way, includes Lucifer. Hello, somebody. Everything, he called everything good. What about the third of the angels that fell? What did he call them? Good. That means they hadn't rebelled yet, folks. The devil could not have fallen before creation week. I talked to you on Sunday about Ezekiel 28. Thou wast in Eden, the garden of God. And you were and thou wert perfect there until iniquity was found in thee. How is that possible? If he had fallen during some kind of pre-Adamic rebellion. Lucifer was in Eden, the garden of God, walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Remember I told you those were stars. Iniquity was not found in Lucifer until after Eden was formed. There couldn't have been a Satan-led rebellion between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2.